My grandmother wears a small gold necklace every day, but it's not a locket, it doesn't have a pendant, it has a safety pin, just an ordinary safety pin hanging on a chain. As a kid, I never understood it. Why would she wear something so simple, something so utilitarian? I didn't get it then, because she then later told me that it was because it was indispensable. It was something irreplaceable. She always had it ready for a little tear or a loose thread. It wasn't a fashion statement, it was a quiet assurance. I get it now. This small object is one of the most wonderfully designed things ever. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it just does the job quietly, invisibly, and it gives you the sense of assurance and comfort you need. And that, to me, is design. So when I was asked to talk about the next big thing in design, I had to be honest. I don't know. I'm just 21, I'm a student, still learning, still figuring out Photoshop shortcuts. So I don't know what the next big, design trend is, and I certainly do not know what the next iPhone will look like. But here's what I do know. The next big thing in design is creating an experience, the human experience. I am a fourth-year communication design student, and I like storytelling, I like illustration, drawing, and I like branding. And here are some of the projects I've worked on. They circle around these concepts. This is a pong, a graphic narrative based on the traditional Assamese rice beer, and sometimes it is also given to children in small amounts for overall health and well-being. But really, this project is about the community that gathers around it. This is Masor Tenga. It's a visual identity inspired by a local Assamese fish dish. But really, it talks about how food holds emotion, how it makes you feel things. This is Nightcrawler. It is an infographic website based on hustle culture and sleep deprivation. But actually, it talks about the silent struggle we all collectively go through. It talks about the pressures of society that we face. And lastly, this is Auntie. It's a fun, you could say, card game. And it talks about social stereotypes. But in reality, it has this deep meaning hidden behind it. It talks about how, the simple things we say in everyday life can become problematic. All of these are experiments. They're, I'm still learning because I'm young, I'm a student. I'm still seeing what's right and what works and what doesn't. But the intriguing part for me is seeing how design can move beyond just making things to shaping how people feel and how people connect, you could say. So that brings me to storytelling. It is one of the oldest technologies known to humans. Long before books, long before the internet, communities gathered around fires and they passed down stories. They talked about how to hunt, what animals to stay away from, where to find food, where to find water. And these weren't just bedtime stories or tales. If you did not know one of these, you could lose your life. Communities survived because knowledge was passed down through storytelling. And maybe that's why we remember stories, because they don't stay in your head like facts. They live in your senses, you could say. They make you hear a sound, they make you feel an emotion, they help you connect, So let me tell you one story. A designer named Doug Dietz walked into a hospital to check the MRI machine he had worked on. He was really proud of the technology because it was brilliant. But what he saw really disturbed him. A little girl crying, screaming to go in, terrified. She was clutching her parents. To her, the machine was big, it was loud, and it looked like a monster. She didn't just want to go in. Doug later realized that 80% of children needed to be sedated just to get a scan. Now imagine that Imagine having such a beautiful technology, but having such a broken experience. Doug decided to fix it. So instead of redesigning the machine, which was already perfect, he redesigned the experience. He turned the room into an adventure. The walls became a pirate ship, the scanner became a tunnel to crawl through, and the nurses were also trained to narrate the experience like a game. And the result? Sedation rates dropped dramatically. That is the power of experiences. They turn fear into curiosity. They turn a hospital into a story. And we've seen this closer to home too, you know. Remember the Fevicol bus ad? Such a crowded bus, people hanging outside the windows, people sitting on the roof of the bus, yet no one falls. They didn't require a statistic or some fancy tagline to make you remember this. It was a simple story where the glue was the product and the bond was the hero. And that's why you remember it. It appealed to your senses. It's funny. It's something you remember. So that brings me to talk about something that moves beyond storytelling. Here's what I've learned as a student. Yes, creating experiences and stories, it matters, But what also matters is building systems that carry these forward. What are systems? Systems are a group of, small parts or people or ideas or rules that work together to solve a problem or to create these experiences we're talking about. That is a system. Take money, for example. Today it feels so casual and normal to hand over a note or swipe a card and believe it holds some value. But this was never the case. This wasn't always the case. People traded grains, they traded salt, they traded shells, or even cattle. Slowly, communities found a way to simplify this exchange. They started off with coins, then notes, and now there's digital numbers on a screen. This is a system. And without this system, a note is just paper. It's worthless, it has no value. Where does this value come from? This value comes from the shared agreement we've all, come to. It comes from trust, and it comes from the rules we've all set. This is why systems are really important. This is why building something like this is important. We've seen this everywhere. We've seen this in cities. Cities shape how we move. Schools shape how we learn. These designed patterns, as you can call it, they're all made by somebody, They don't just come about on their own. These patterns organize how we live. So when, we get one of these patterns wrong, the experiences we want, they get lost along the way. This is why building systems is really, really important, and it's something we should keep in mind. So when I go back and look at my grandmother's safety pin, I see a tiny system, I see a tiny story, a small tool that holds things together when they fall apart, right? So for me, the next big thing in design would be the oldest thing in life. Creating stories, creating experiences, and building systems that last, the kind that make life worth living. Thank you.